Yeah, thank you, Jim. And I'm also struck listening to the panelists, the previous panelists, the amount of information sharing going on, the progress with our partners at DOJ, FBI, DHS, the intelligence community across the civilian agencies. Quite remarkable. It's great to hear. Our mission is strengthening collaboration and coordination in the domestic nexus of national security and public safety to combat terrorism and other priority threats. The thing when you think about this space is the awesome complexity. 18,000 police departments in this country, 90% of which have 50 or fewer sworn officers.
And the awesome importance right now.
Yeah, and the awesome importance, you know, the privacy, civil rights, and civil liberties concerns, the need to maintain community engagement, to use open government techniques of transparency, participation, and collaboration to build out that enterprise view. And yeah, the threat, the constantly morphing and evolving threat. The thing I wanted to highlight was some progress that we've helped catalyze with our mission partners, federal and state and local, around aligning field-based intelligence and information sharing entities. We've had fusion centers since 9/11, an organic response by states, major urban areas, partially supported by the federal government, but mostly paid for by our state and local partners. Prior to that, we had HIDAs, high-intensity drug trafficking centers. War on drugs, 80s and 90s.
And of course, they all still exist.
They still exist, and they've got a mission, and they're constantly working. You know, heroin is a big issue these days, and they're focused on that. Prior to that, we had risk centers, regional information sharing centers, going back to the 70s and the war on regional organized crime. So you can see information sharing architectures layered on top of each other going back to the 70s. Until recently, they were relatively stovepiped.
Right.
In addition to those state-based entities, you had JTTFs, Joint Terrorism Task Forces, other federal type of task forces. In the last several years, there's been a concerted effort to drive alignment and interoperability across those entities through information sharing, responsible information sharing. The specific thing we led off with was what's called deconfliction. The idea that if you're going to conduct a law enforcement operation, a lawful operation, you want to make sure from a collaboration perspective, an information sharing perspective, an officer safety perspective, that you're coordinating with other agencies. Think about a place like Los Angeles, 160 police departments within that jurisdiction. So 5 months ago, we went live with a national capability where you deconflict in one of the previously stovepipe systems. You're now deconflicting in them all.
Right.
This is a technical advance, a business process, and a policy advance. It's also an advance in terms of culture change and federating trust at scale.
So in a layman's term, if, you know, the local police can have access to information that the federal police, the other various police jurisdictions. So, because we used to have stories in the past where someone might have a wanted criminal record and be stopped locally, and that they have no idea of knowing that they're wanted for something serious at the federal level. So that's a major safety improvement. Tell us about the lessons learned along the way. What are some of the lessons you've learned working your way through this program?
You know, the number one lesson learned was persistence. You know, we've been working this challenge for some time, creating the space to allow folks to listen to their better angels, to come together, to experiment, to build trust that's relationship-based, then to take that next step and try to scale that up so that the trust is within their systems and all that. You know, you talked about how culture change is always mentioned in these sort of settings, and that was key too. Was focusing on the culture change.
Sure, especially when you're dealing with the federal, state, local levels, law enforcement, intelligence sharing, and so forth.
The hardest issue weren't the technical issues. They used the NEAM framework and the federated identity and access management stuff that we've been championing, but the real hard nugget was getting folks to where they were willing to trust their sensitive operational information at arm's length through this distributed network. And that,
well done.